Monday Parshas Devorim, Daled Menachemov, Tovshin Pei Aleph. This Shir, B'siyata D'Shemaya, is part 3 of the Shiurim. When a person tries to change habits, to uproot deep nature that they have, what is the Mahalach from the Torah? How could they succeed? B'siyata D'Shemaya. So, in the previous Shir, we started with 2 emails that people sent in, how hard it is, how tough, and as much as they tried, they didn't succeed. So, someone sent in a letter, he writes, as people send in messages how it's impossible to change, I felt the need to give voice to the other side of the coin. Yes, it's possible. He says, yes, I have uprooted addictions from stam stuff, like, that's what he writes, like smoking, 15-20 years of smoking, or even something so mundane like coffee drinking, and many other things, sports, until bad ruchnisdige habits. And no one should tell me that obviously for me it's easy, because I have fought tooth and nail for years, and I think my koyach HaMashiach can compete with anyone's, and I have a strong nature of getting hooked to things, and Baruch Hashem, it was matzliach. Now, it's a breath of fresh air, but it's a very big chizik for people to know that there are hundreds of people out there that struggled, tough struggles, in all aspects of Yiddishkeit, and in being a successful person in Yerushalayim and everything, and succeeded. And this younger man writes that with such strong rotzon, he had such a strong will to really do tshuva, that a lot of the Yesodis we had learned from the Orach HaKodesh, the previous 2 shiurim, Hashem put it into his head, and he knew that that's the right way to do it, and how to change and uproot all these habits, because now he sees the Orach HaKodesh says it clearly, but he just put it into his head, that he figured out that this is how he's supposed to do it. And that's on itself a very big chizik, because it just shows that when a person feels they're so stuck, and they daven, but how is this going to change? I feel so stuck that I can't change. You should know one of the ways that Hashem could help you is by putting into your mind the right information and the secret way how to change your habits. Hashem does it to anyone that really reaches out. In all types of ways Hashem helps, and this is one of them. Now, the Ingerman writes in the email a lot of tactics that he used that really, really helped him. And B'siyata D'Shemaya will try to include it in the shir, but we need to learn another yesod when we want to learn the derech HaTorah, the mahalach of the Torah, how to change a person's way of living, even though they feel it's very, very deep in them. And that could help us understand many different details, how to go about it, and to understand how the change could happen. So there's another yesod that goes like this. Hashem created the world, Briyas HaOlam. Hashem also created, to the world He created, a whole system of koiches atuma, koiches of impurity, with a whole system that they have power. Hashem gave them power to be able to fight the Kedusha. They fight us whenever we want to do a mitzvah. Whenever a person wants to learn Torah, get better, he feels there's a koyach fighting them. And they have to feel, they feel like they're in war, they're trying to conquer. It is like that, and a person has to understand the essence, the mitzias of how it is. A person is a chelik al kamimal. That's who we are. A person has a neshama which wants to do good, and constantly wants to connect to Hashem. That's the person. That's the neshama of a person. Hashem put around the neshama a koyach from tumah, which blocks it. Which every time a person has an urge that they want to just do better, and they want to really live a life of ruchnius, something is blocked in them and fighting with them. These 2 koiches that are inside of the person, the back and forth, which we sometimes find when a person makes such a strong decision, And then when it comes that they have to do it, they have a different push from the other side, pushing them, nah, just don't do it, just stay in bed. That's because the koiches of Tumah come to the person and fight them. We say in Aleinu L'Shabeach that the tachlis, the goal is of this whole bria of the world, is that we should conquer and we should take over. The kedusha should come in and take over the koiches Tumah. Another inch, slowly, the same exact idea of a war, which we have the whole military power of one Medina, of once they come, and they go slowly, and they take over another piece of land, until they totally take over, and they put up their flag, and they won. That is the idea of the whole creation of the world that Hashem made, that we have koiches HaKedusha, in the world is koiches HaTumah, and we try to conquer. Another step, slowly. When we'll finish, that's when the Tikkun HaSholim into the world comes. Mashiach comes, and that was the goal, that was the reason Hashem created the world. Now when we have this constant fight, constant back and forth, it's very important to know that who we are in the game. People feel sometimes that they are bad, and they're so embarrassed of themselves. Now, when someone does something wrong, we're supposed to be embarrassed. But the desire to do something wrong, the temptations, that's not the person. That's surrounding the heart of the person. That's koiches HaTumah, that they are pushing the person, making them trip, making the person fall. That's the idea of the Yetzer Hara. The Gemara Masechta Sukkah says that the pasuk says Tzoyfo Rosha LaTzadik. The Rosha looks out for the Tzadik. Umavakash LaMisai. The Rosha tries to kill the Tzadik. So the pasuk explains, the Gemara explains that the pasuk is referring to the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara constantly is looking to kill the person. Every person is the Tzadik, and the Rosha is the name for the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is looking out constantly to try to trip the person, make the person fall. Actually, the Zohar HaKadosh takes it a step further and explains that the Yetzer Hara doesn't only want the person to do an Aveira, the Yetzer Hara wants to kill the person. That's the idea, to get rid of him. That is what the Yetzer Hara is looking the whole time after the person. These taivas that a person feels that they so badly want to do bad things. It's not them. It's not them. It's not their neshama. It's not, if we call it, it's not Reuven. It's Tzoyfa Rosh HaTzadik and wants to kill them. Sometimes there's the police wants to get someone, so they send people undercovered, that they should try to get the person into selling them things they're not supposed to sell and everything, all because they just want to get him. The bottom line is that they want to get the person and then arrest him. It's all a game, it's all a trick to be able to get the person themselves. That same idea, the Zohar HaKadosh explains, is by the Yetzer Hara, is the Yetzer Hara is trying to kill the person. And it's very important to know this, because one of the ways to fight the Yetzer Hara is by slowly developing a hatred, a sinner, to that person that wants to kill me. That's what the Hashem HaKadosh says. We mentioned it in the last year. Now, when a person feels that they're the bad one, they're fighting themselves. And they get very sad and depressed that they fell again. When a person knows, no matter what, I know that I'm good, and that's a metzias, that's a neshama. There's something there pushing me, and I'm trying to fight that person. So it's easier to develop that hatred towards the Yetzer Hara because it's from the outside. And that's the truth. It's koiches HaTumah fighting the neshama of a person, because that is the metzias of this world, is constantly this fight. When a person did Aveira many times, they got used to doing it, they got addicted to do it. The Hashem HaKadosh in Parasha Shoftim explains in the end of the Parasha that those Avedas created, they gave koyach, more power to the koyach satuma. So now the koyach satuma are very, very strong. They're very, very strong. But then once again, it's not you. You have to be aware about that. And a person should know, I'm in a fight, and I'm trying to fight that evil power that's trying to overpower me. Now, we'll discuss during the shir, we have to understand how many differences, how we could understand so many different things if we know this Yesod well. One of them is there's a word from Ramotcha Lechvich. The Tzaddik Ramotcha from Lechvich, the dynasty of Slonim and Kobrin, are Talmidim from this Tzaddik Ramotcha Lechvich. Ramotcha Lechvich said that a person that really is a Oived Hashem, and he understands what a neshama is and what a yid is, has to have the koyach that even if they killed somebody else, took a knife and with their bare hands killed someone, and they're still holding the knife in their hand and it's drops of blood are still running down from the knife, they have to be able to get up and daven mincha even though they're still holding the knife. Get up and daven mincha. And if you can't do that, he says that you're missing some fundamental ideas from Chassidus and Yiddishkeit if you can't do that. Now it sounds very extreme. How could you daven mincha? Who needs your mincha? Well, the answer to that is that the person has a neshama, and the neshama is davening mincha. Some crazy evil koyach came and took over him, and a ruach shtus, and that koyach went and overpowered him and made him be boicher bara. But he is a neshama. There's a part of it is neshama. Nothing happened to that part of the neshama. There's always part of the neshama that doesn't get damaged, and that part is davening. And Hashem still loves that part of the neshama and loves you. It's a very important thing to know, because the moshel of Ramotcha from Lechvich is a moshel that is talking about someone that killed. But any Aveda is the same. You must know who you are. There's a fight. You are the neshama, and there's koiches atuma. The koiches atuma are the koiches that are fighting you. The koiches that are fighting you. So you should know about it. And one of the ways to fight that koich is by davening mincha. By davening mincha, you're connecting to Hashem, and by davening mincha, you're fighting Him. So don't not daven mincha now. And that's not only davening mincha, and it's not only by killing someone. Whenever someone did Aveda, they feel, so why should I do a mitzvah now? Who needs my mitzvahs now? I know who I am. I know what I'm worth. It's a very big mistake. You should definitely do a mitzvah, because that's the way to fight. That is the way to fight that koyach. Now, this is a beautiful story from a chassid from the Balatanya. His name was Reb Shmuel Munkes, that explains it very well. The chassidim from the Balatanya in Russia, they went to the mikveh every morning. Now in Russia, and how much below zero, and it's freezing cold, and it's not possible to go to a mikveh. They used to go outdoors to the river or what it was. Now they needed to actually break the ice. Stand there and break the ice, the sheet of ice in the top, and then deeper in, it's not frozen. That's how it goes. So they stood there and broke the ice, and there was a whole group of Talmidim of the Balatanya, and they had a hole to be able to go into that hole, and one person went and he said, it's not possible. The water is so freezing cold, it's not possible. The next chassid tried and said, no, not this. Then this Reb Shmuel Munkes went over and he puts his toes into the water, and he understood that no, this is the real freezing water. It's not possible. I can't. And the chassidim wanted to see what he's going to say, and they listened to him, and they hear him saying like this: Shmuel, listen. I'm going into the water. If you don't want to come along, you don't need to, but I'm going in. And he jumped straight in, and that's how he went into the mikveh. Once he did it, of course, the other ones felt strong enough to do it as well. What was he saying? He knew who he was. Who's the one fighting me? My guf. That's the other party that's not letting me do what I want to do. Okay, You could decide whatever you want, but I'm going in. That's what he said. And a person's supposed to live like that. When they want to so badly do something, that's them. That's you. You have this koyach. And when you feel that you're being pulled so strong to the other direction, that's not you. That's the koyches haguf, which Hashem gave you to try to have that milchama. And it's so important to understand this, because so many people that when they think about themselves, who they are, their image, they're totally lost. They feel like sometimes I'm like an angel, and I wish I could daven all day, and I would cry, and I would stand there by Shkia, and just talk to Hashem and sing to Him. That's who I am. And then they think about other parts of their day, and other situations that they went through, and they're like, I'm this big black monster. Who am I? What's with me? Am I normal? You're very normal. You are the good. That's the neshama. That's you. And then there's a koyach. That's what it is. It's a koyach atuma, which Hashem put very close to the person. But you should know you're from the inside. The levush, it's like a coating from the outside, and a person is supposed to try to conquer it. It's a milchama. Now, another reason why it's so important to know this is because here's another. I'll read another part of this email that a person that succeeded was matzliach in changing his way of life, what he writes, and this is why it's so important. He says, people need to know, buying an alarm clock is not a Kabbalah. Buying an alarm clock, if you're struggling with getting up early, and it's not that if you bought an alarm clock, then you created a malach. You're trying. He says, the problem is that people think that once I want to change badly, it will automatically go away. So they're expecting that when their alarm sounds, they will open their eyes and they will just want to get out of bed so badly. Because, but what do you mean? Because I decided last night. Because I bought an alarm clock. Because I'm going to want to get out of bed. He said, it doesn't work like that. It continues to be a milchama. It continues to be a war, because we have to understand there's two parties to the game. It's not one. You are the neshama that wants to get up early in the morning. You decided, you did things because you want that to happen. Now, there's the other side. In the Zohar HaKadosh, the koyches hatumah are called the sitra achra. Literal translation to sitra achra means the other side. That's what it means. So the other side is fighting you. And the guf that's where the koyches hatumah, that's where they are, that's where they have their koyach, and that's why the guf doesn't want to get up. The neshama wants to get up, the guf doesn't want to get up. Now starts the milchama. Now starts the fight. Now, even though we mentioned in the first of these three parts that when a person makes a Kabbalah, strong Kabbalah, that's when he creates a malach, and that malach is going to come to help him. He must know the malach is going to be on your side. Hashem is going to be on your side. But before you made the Kabbalah, the koyches hatumah were very strong. Not only because they have power and they have a malach on their side too, because there's a malach ra, like we say when we come on Friday night, there's a malach tov, there's a malach ra. Not only because of that, just because if a person did a Aveda a few times, then they gave even more power. So it's like saying they have 10,000 troops. They have. Now you were small. You didn't have that koyach, because you need to bring it out. You need to create more and more koyches hakedusha to be able to fight. When you davened, you're adding more troops to your side. When you made a strong Kabbalah, you added more tanks and military and who knows what. Now, so slowly you're becoming as strong as them. And you could become even stronger. But it's still going to be a fight. It's very important to understand that. You're still going to be struggling. It's still going to be a back and forth, because it's not simple what you want to do. You want to conquer and overcome a very, very big koyach that Hashem created. Now, if a person understands that, that brings us to another realization that's also extremely important. When a person makes a Kabbalah, we elaborated in the first shir that the malach gets created from the hardship from the Kabbalah, and a person must know beforehand what he's getting himself into to really know that it's going to cost him. It's not going to be so easy. It's going to be tough. Now, we mentioned that sometimes a person has to figure out, if you have this Kabbalah that you're going to go to sleep early, be aware what are you going to do on late Shabbosim. What's your plan Friday night, Motzei Shabbos? What's your plan when you're going to have a family simcha? What's your plan when it's going to be summer vacation? Try to figure it out. So some people, mistakenly, they understood it, that a person can't make a Kabbalah until they have everything figured out. Until 2027. And before that, don't make Kabbalahs. Now, that's not good, because then a person will never make the Kabbalah. The real understanding is that a person has to know, I can't know the future and the nisyonos I will have. It's not possible to know the future. Rashi says, you can't know the asidus. But what a person does know and must know is, it's not going to be a breeze. It's not going to be easy. It's going to mean that I'm going into a fight. That's what it means. When a person makes that decision, they have to use their imagination to go in that, to see the fight. If the struggle is to get up early, then they see themselves tired and they can't budge. And they tell themselves, that's how it's going to feel. It's exactly how it's going to feel. And that is what I'm undertaking. I'm undertaking to do that. That's when they feel already then the hardship, and they say, they say, even I want. I know what I'm getting myself into, that's what I want. That connects the person to the Kabbalah that they're undertaking. That they're already paying the price while they are deciding that what does it mean they're paying the price? Through imagining it, they're already feeling the struggle. And they're telling themselves, I know, and I'm willing to. Even though it's going to be so tough, I am willing to do it. And that creates the malach. It's very important to know that, because most people, when they want to change whatever it is, the Kabbalah, so what happens is they think about the pleasant, beautiful life when they're not going to have the struggle anymore. Wouldn't it be beautiful that all these evil thoughts and temptations that I have are just going to go away, and I'm going to live a beautiful life, get up early and daven and learn and go to work and be so nice to people. And that's the end result. It's true that that's the end result. But you're thinking about the end result, and that's why you're making the Kabbalah. It's hard to believe it's gonna work, because you're not taking the whole picture in. You're thinking only about the pleasant parts. That's not going to work. But you know why it's not going to work? Because you're not really making Kabbalah. A lot of people that started a Fayomi, they see a Mashas, and then they see, hey, that's so beautiful. Imagine 7.5 years, every day I learn a block, I'm just going to finish Shas. I'm going to be better see Mashas, and I'm going to bring my family, and I finished Shas. It's going to be so beautiful. So you sat down and you learned the first blat, brochas, daf beis, daf gimel, beautiful blettes, a lot of easy agada to Gemara and all that. But that's not something that is telling you what the Kabbalah is all about. The Kabbalah, if you really want to be matzliach, you want to create a malach. Create a malach means that while you're making the Kabbalah, you think to yourself, you know that it's going to mean that for 7.5 years, every single day, I'm going to be under pressure. I don't like pressure. Tell yourself. I hate pressure. I just want to leave go, and I should be on my own. No, it's going to be massive pressure. And be aware, you're going to have different pressures throughout the 7.5 years. You will have the Eibusha should help, the mishpacha, very, very heavy days, packed with different things that you can't push off. And it's not going to fit into your day. And you're not going to know what to do with yourself, because there's not enough hours. And you're going to sit there at night and you're going to have this struggle. You know which blot is going to be that day? I don't want to tell you which blot. It's going to be the toughest blot. It's going to come out that day that you just don't have the head for it. And you're sitting by the Gemara and it's just, you can't. And you don't understand one word that's going on. And the next blot is a continuation of this. The next day, and you feel you're falling behind 2-3 days, and when are you going to make it up? Talk about it, think about it. Be aware it's going to be tough. Now you don't know the whole picture. But when a person knows this, and that's how in 7.5 years, you bet that this is going to happen somewhere throughout the 7.5 years, every struggle is going to be like that. And every struggle, it's going to be so tough, because you're going to want, and you're going to go, and you're going to fight, and your heart is going to be pounding, back and forth, and back and forth. Think about it beforehand. Knowing that it's going to be continuing a struggle, you're going to be continuing to struggle, that is what it means that when they do make the Kabbalah, they know it, and they feel like they're becoming numb. Just from thinking about the Kabbalah, that creates a malach. That creates a malach, because you felt something happening. It's true. You gave up before the Maisa. You already gave up. You knew what you're going through. You felt it. You felt you're sweating just thinking about it. That creates the malach, because you're being moist nefesh right then and there. We mentioned in the shiurim right before these three shiurim about changing habits. We mentioned that the Gemara says that Daniel decided to fast, and the malach told him later on that when you made that decision, Hashem already took that Kabbalah and already used it, and he heard your tefillas, but I didn't fast yet. Yeah, but you made that decision. Because when a person makes a decision and he knows what it entails, that's the decision that creates a malach. It's even possible to explain it even deeper. There's a concept in halacha that when a person has his possession, the possessions of a person is his, it's connected to him. It's not only that he could use it and he writes his name on it, it has a deep connection to the person. A esrik, if it's not yours, you're not yoytze esrik v'lulav. If it's yours, that's when you can be yoytze. A person that has a coin could go over, and it could be mekadesh. A woman could be mekadesh and becomes a kiddushin, and everything that it entails. But it has to be your money. If it's not your money, it's not mekudeshes. There's no kiddushin. There's no marriage. There's nothing. There's no kinyan. Now, how does something become mine? When something becomes mine, it's part of me. And there's a lot of halachas that come out of it. And result that it's mine, there's a lot of halachas. But how does it become mine? There's a coin laying on the table. The coin is yours. How does it become mine? If I give you something instead, that's when the other thing becomes mine. When I go into the store and I want to buy something, so you stand there, if you give the money, then you get the other thing, and that's a kinyan in the Torah that makes it yours, and then it's yours for keeps. If it's be'em is yours, with all the halachas that it entails. Now, being that it's yours, it means that it's connected to your soul. Another example is, we know that a chayfetz, object of a tzaddik, has kedusha, because it has a certain connection to the soul of the tzaddik. Now, when you want a Kabbalah, you want something to become part of you. You want to be koine of that. You want that it should become part of you. Then you have to pay for it. The decision that you want doesn't make it connect to yourself. When you pay for it, you understand it's going to cost you, and you decide that even though it's going to cost me, I anyways want. That's when it really connects to you, and that's when it gives you that koyach that you should be able to continue on to do it. When a non-Jew, a goy, wants to become a yid, a ger, so the halacha is that chachamim, the bezin, has to sit with this person and explain to him that it's going to be very tough. And they're supposed to try, they tell him all the very, very hard parts of being a yid, and tell him it's not worth it, and it's not going to be as easy as you think, and you don't know what it means to come into a community and people, and I don't know what's going to be if the Moses are going to take in your children, and where are they going to learn with you, who are you going to be friends, you're going to have your old habits. They have to talk and talk and talk. That's part of becoming a ger. Because if you don't do that, then it's not true. Okay, it's so nice to be a yid, but then when it becomes tough, he just didn't mean that. It's totally not what he meant. We see from all these examples what it means that a person has to understand the milchama. Now, we're elaborating because this is all in result of what we explained in the beginning of the shir. In the beginning of the shir, we explained there's two parties. You want to do good, but there's going to be the sitra achra. The other side is going to fight you. Even if you're going to make such a strong decision, and a huge malach is created that will help you and give you koiches that you never had, a fight is going to be. A struggle is going to be. Until you conquer. Then, Baruch Hashem, a person, in the end, it's not going to continue to struggle forever. But it's going to be, a person can't know how long the struggle is going to take. Because there's a lot of details. It depends how deep it was in the person to be able to uproot it. And there's various scenarios that will change how long the struggle is going to be. But a person knows, I'm going to have koyach, and Hashem is going to be on my side, and I'm going to be stronger because Hashem is going to help me. But, being that there's another side, it's still going to be a struggle. And a person that knows that, will make that decision knowing that, that's when he's really going to have the siyata d'shmaya. Now, there's another reason why we need to understand that the power that's fighting you is koichas atuma. And that is an amazing explanation that the Or L'Shamayim explains in the Sefer Or L'Shamayim in Parshas Achri. The Or L'Shamayim is the tzaddik Reb Meir Apte. Reb Meir Apte is the tzaddik that composed that Tefillah Ribono Olam Yodati, famous song, Gam Ki Es Amitz. So a lot of us are as Talmidim, because we said the Tefillah and we got chizik from it. So that tzaddik in the Sefer Or L'Shamayim Parshas Achrei Mois explains something that's very, very deep, and it's something that every person needs to understand this. He says there's two korbanos. There's a korban oila, and there's a korban chatas. Korban oila, the halacha is that the whole korban you just put onto the fire, burns everything. Almost no korbanos have this halacha. It's because it's like the highest madrega of a korban. That's why no one eats anything. You just burn the whole thing. Kolil. A chatas is a korban that the kohanim eat big parts of the behemoth. That means it's more like a regular korban. Someone does an aveira, they bring a chatas. A korban oila is not for an aveira, but if someone missed a mitzvah's eser, he missed doing something, then they bring a korban oila, and then it takes care of, it erases that aveira together with shuva. Now, when someone did a big aveira, shouldn't they bring a korban oila, which is a higher madrega of a korban? Why do we bring a chatas, which we still eat the meat of the chatas? A person that did a big aveira should bring the highest madrega. A person that did a small aveira, like only they missed the mitzvah sesa, they should bring a chatas. So the Or Shemaim quotes from the Sefer Bris Menucha. Bris Menucha is one of the big mekubolim. Reb Chaim Vital writes about him, the Ramak, one of the very big mekubolim, that explains that you need to understand that when a person fights koiches atoma, they need to go slowly. You cannot conquer in one time the whole land. It's not possible, because it's a very strong power, the koiches atoma. And the Sefer Bris Menucha explains that the pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim says that when Yidden will enter Eretz Yisrael, the promise of Hashem is ma'at argoshenu. Argoshenu. Hashem will send them away. Hashem will kick out the umois very slowly. Another bit, and another bit, and another bit. Why is that? Yidden want to be mekayim the mitzvah of lo yisachai kol neshama. They want to kill all these 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael, and they have all the help of all the malachim and Hashem. The answer is because when you're trying to kick away the ra, they're very strong power. So if you come and you focus on, let's say, one piece of land, you put all the focus there, you'll be stronger, and you'll be able to invade. And then you're there, you're settled. Now let's try to focus on another piece of land. And slowly you can invade, you go through the whole thing. Ma'at argoshenu. So the the Or Shemayim says, when a person's trying to do tshuva, when a person's trying to change a habit, they're supposed to understand, you cannot go and decide, that's it. From tomorrow, I'm going to be learning all day, and I'm going to only think beautiful things and say Tehillim and do chesed, nothing, that's it. I'm finished with all that. The Ratzon is there. Of course you want to and you need to get to there. It's very, very important. But the way, how to get there, is by knowing I have to focus on little bits. My goal, my end goal, I know exactly where I want to get to, but I need to do it slowly, because I'm going against Koichas Atoma. And if I'm going against Koichas Atoma, then it says Ma'at Argoshenu. And that's how he explains, and a person he only missed the mitzvah sesa, okay, so you can already bring a oila, because not so bad. But if you did a big Aveda, you need to bring a chatas and still be eating meat. You can't go too far up. When a person is still used to doing Avedas, they need to treat themselves. But if an amuta, they can't just, it's not going to work, because you need to slowly get the tumah out, and they have a koyach. So make sure that you have parts of your day that you could still be enjoying life. Of course, in an oifen that's muta, but you need to do that. That's going to give you the strength. Another Kabbalah, another thing, but you have to focus in little bits. You have to focus. And even when a person has things that are Avedas, and they feel, what do you mean, how can I continue doing Avedas? I can't continue doing Avedas. Yeah, but you must know that you don't want to do Avedas. But the focus is, let's say a person's on certain parts of the day. The focus is on certain people that know they have the time that they're at work, and they have the time that they're at home. Certain parts you need to conquer. This is what I'm working now. The other part is that's going to be step 2. That's going to be the next part of this whole process that I'm doing. But first I'm doing part 1. Don't now tell me about part 2. The Yitzhak constantly, if he sees he can't work on the person, so they say, oh, but you're not doing that right. But you're not doing this right. This young man that wrote me the email wrote that the Yitzhak would always want to get you into perfection. So he's speaking about not saying Krishma on time. So he says that the person has to know that when the Yitzhak sees that you're in it to win, he tries pushing you to perfection. Nah, reading Krishma with pajamas is not what Hashem wants. You need to tell yourself, true, but right now, I'm not working on that now, and I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm doing whatever I decided to do. That's what I'm doing. All the rest, plan B, write it down. We'll get there. But by constantly getting mixed up, yeah, but I did this, I did that, it's all atzas hayetze. He knows all psychology to be able to get the person upset and slowly help the person not being able to do whatever they decided to do. Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, it's so important to know about this letter in Pachad Yitzchak, which is the writings of Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner. There's letters that he wrote to Talmidim. It's an unbelievable letter. It's important to learn the whole letter. It's not possible here. It's in letter Kuf Chof Ches. He says, he writes to a Talmud that was struggling. He says, it's terrible that when we speak about the Gedolim, we always write how they were just angels. They had shleimus. And we write the book, the biography about the Godel, about the end result. We only write the beautiful parts, and then, even though they write the beginning stages of their life, but they'll always skip any struggles. They'll only write that when the child was 6 years old, everybody knew that he's going to be the Gadol Ador, and he was a genius, and he heard himself this Masechta, that Masechta. Let's say it's true. But why didn't you write about the massive struggles that this kid had? He was a child. He had everything figured out? Of course he didn't. When he was a child, he was learning, and he was just amazing. His neshama was thriving. He wanted, but he had different parts to himself. And then he writes there that the Roshim, the impression that we get on the Gedolim, is like they were created like that, like with that image, like on the book. You see them with a white beard, with smiling, shining face. They were created like that, And that's how he came down to the world. He says, everybody talks about the taharas haloshain, the purity that the Chofetz Chaim never spoke lashon hara. He says, how do you know, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, mi yodeya, how many struggles the Chofetz Chaim had, and how many times he fell, and how many times it didn't work out, and he spoke lashon hara on the way that he got to where he got. And he says, this is one of 1,000 mashalim. Why do you think the Chofetz Chaim wrote the Sefer? He had struggles. Why doesn't anybody talk about it? And then he continues on in the letter, and he says, you should know that the shoresh neshama of a person is to fight. And I know that you're fighting. He says, lose the battle and win the war. What's the idea behind that sentence, that saying? Lose the battle and win the war. You go fight. Even though it means that you're going to be in battle, which that includes sometimes definitely losing the battle. But if you're in the battle, then you're fighting. And that's what we came down to, fight. Struggle and go. And don't think that because you lost the battle, you lost the war. That's not true, because as long as you're fighting, you're still there. And continue on. It's a beautiful letter. But it just brings out the point why a person is supposed to know while they're struggling that this is not showing their Kabbalah wasn't a Kabbalah. This is not showing that you're not succeeding. This is the growing pains. This is what you're seeing. If you feel yourself that you're back and forth and you're trying so hard, so now you're in the middle of that fight. Continue to daven. Continue to reach out to Hashem to help you in that war. But you're ready. You're 10 steps ahead of the game because you're in the fight. You're in the fight. Continue on fighting. We mentioned that a person in the shir last week, we spoke about that a person should use kumba say, that means Torah and mitzvahs, do good things. Even if a person has bad things that they do, one of the ways to fight the bad things is by positive. Asay toiv. Do positive things. It should be strong to be able to level it out, that you should be able to, that's going to help. Now a person sometimes thinks, who cares, I'm going to do more Torah. My problem is in a different area in Avodas Hashem. The answer is, because the more Kedusha you bring to yourself, your neshama is becoming stronger. Torah will help your neshama. Tefillah will help your neshama. Tzedakah will help your neshama. The kibbutz of ha'em is going to help your neshama, and that will help that in that area that you're struggling, you're going to have more Kedusha. And of course, a person should do those mitzvahs and have in zinnen and think while they're doing those mitzvahs, I'm doing those mitzvahs and I beg Hashem that it should give me koyach, that should give me the strength that I need in my struggle, wherever that struggle is. Of course, it says in the Moreh Shalom, a person, Shabbos Kodesh, Shabbos should give him, every Shabbos. The Shabbos should give me koyach. Shabbos has a koyach to help a person from any hardship and struggle that they have. Shabbos could help a person in any aspect in life. So they while they're singing Shabbos, while they're davening Shabbos, then they're saying in the tefillah from Shabbos, Kacheinu mitzvaysecha. That's what they have in Zinn. Kacheinu mitzvaysecha. Give me that strength. Give me that purity in my neshama. I should be able to win. I should be able to succeed. Now, of course, there's a lot of details we didn't speak about, but we have to put it into some kind of boundaries, these shiurim. So we'll just finish off with 10 steps that is a sach hakoil of the 3 shiurim that we spoke about. 10 steps when a person wants to fight a habit. They want to break free from an addiction. The Mahalach HaTorah and Aruch HaKodesh. So just in short, things that we spoke about, just in short, to be able to have it, 10 steps. The number 1 is to know that if you're trying to uproot a habit, it's a nace. In the system of the world, of the system of Teva, it's impossible. Today, we added to this, in step 1, that you should know you're fighting a big, huge system of the Sitra Achra. And on your own, you can't do it. It's not in the gather from Teva to be able to do this on your own. Now, the next step is that a person should know that the hachlota to change cannot be based only on a rotzen that they want to. It has to be based on that a person knows that it's going to cost him and it's not going to be easy. We spoke about it today a lot. And then they can connect to him. The Kabbalah is going to be a real Kabbalah. It means when you want to conquer that thing against Teva, you must have Hashem. So having Hashem means by making a Kabbalah. The Kabbalah must include that you should understand what it entails. So that's the number 2. Make a strong Kabbalah and be aware what it entails. Number 3, you should know what happens when you make that Kabbalah. You are creating a malach which is going to help you. And that malach is going to give you a lot of siyata d'shmaya and strength. In addition to that, not only the malach is going to help you, Hashem is always going to be on your side. However powerful the other side is, Hashem is going to be on your side to continue on with you. Number 4 is that a person should know that now that you made that Kabbalah, now that you have the malach, now comes the stage of fighting. Get ready and get up the next morning knowing I'm in the middle of fighting. I have to focus and know that I'm in the middle of a fight. I'm fighting the Sitra Achra, I'm fighting the Kochas Atumah, but I have the Kedusha on my side. Number 5, that in the heart of the person is where the desires are, the addictions are. And to be able to overcome that, a person must work on changing their heart. And that's the mind has a koyach, a power over the heart, moyach shalat al-alev, by putting in right thoughts, by learning Torah, even by learning Mamor Chazal about this, anything beautiful about Amunah, whatever it is. Even women that don't have limud Torah also have this aspect of limud Torah when it comes to fighting the Yetzer Hara. They're not going to sit and learn by a Gemara, but they could put in beautiful ideas in their mind and listen to lectures and listen to Chazal and so many beautiful things to think about, which is going to overpower the heart. And Asiyah, we said that when a person does things, Adam Nifal Kafi Pu'uloisov, that also when you have a problem, do mitzvahs with your guf, and that's going to help. That's number 5, that the mind and the pu'ulas and the actions that overpowers the heart. Number 6, do things slowly, like we learned today from Ramir al-Abta, ma'at argoshenu. Focus on one part, constantly focus there. Number 7 is that constantly, if you're in the fight, don't stop to daven because you're still in the fight. You're still in the fight. A week later, people start, and then a week later they feel a bit comfortable. No, you're still in the fight. Continue davening, continue knowing that without Hashem I can't. So I need to stay connected to Hashem for a long period of time, and continue another day. Give me another day of atzloch, of success, and the war could take time, like we know. Number 8, we mentioned the first shir that you have to be addicted to your Kabbalah that you took upon yourself. That means keep on thinking about it so many times throughout the day, again and again and again, because that's how, when it's going to come to do it, you're all into it. You have to be into it because you were addicted to something else. You need to be addicted to your Kabbalah. Number 9, that a person must invest time and thought to figure out what's the source, why they're falling in this area of Yiddishkeit. There's always something deeper, and you should work on that. It's not only the end result. We spoke about in the second shir a lot. It's not only what you're doing, it's why is this happening. So sometimes people can figure out because I have hours in my day that I have nothing to do. So this is what happens. Sometimes they can figure out because they're very upset, and that's what they do when they get upset. But they have to work on figuring out the source of it and uprooting it and working along to be able to uproot that. Number 10, we mentioned in the previous shir that the Rebbe Melech from the Jensk says in Zettel Cotton that a person should always have someone that they could discuss it with. If it's sometimes a professional, because a professional could figure out things, what's bothering you, that you yourself can't figure out, or a smart person, or a close person that you feel you could share this with. But when you're in it, sometimes you don't see the broader picture. and also you don't have someone to support you. It's so important that someone should help you and support you and know if you're falling, if you're going. And even though a person sometimes is embarrassed, but it pays. A lot of times you can do it anonymously. A lot of people do it anonymous. And there's programs that help people do it anonymously. It's so important because that's going to help you also figure it out. And also, someone should support you throughout you. When you're in war, you need to have support. So these are 10 steps that we discussed from the Orach HaKodesh and other Svarim. And we must remember, Hashem is waiting for us. And when a person starts, Pischali Pesach, Pesach Shalmachat, someone starts just a little tiny hole like a needle, and Hashem helps and makes it that a person should be able to go enter the Olam Haba. In this world, a person could feel the Olam Haba. Hatzlocha v'siyata d'shmaya.